Are you wanting to make some easy Christmas ornaments for your tree? Then this video is for you. And I'll be starting off with this first idea by cutting 2 pieces of felt that measures 5 by 2 inches. And I also cut 2 pieces of wire and macrame cord that measures 5 inches. Next, I put a line of glue on the longest edge of the felt, and then I placed 1 wire and 1 piece of macrame cord in the glue. And then I started to roll the felt until I reached the end, and then I added some more glue and finished rolling. Then I cut the end of a piece of ribbon at an angle and glued it at the end of the felt, and then I wrapped it around like how a candy cane stripe would be, and once I reached the end, I glued the end on and cut it at an angle. Once I was done, I repeated the same steps for the other piece of felt so I could make 2 candy canes. Now when I was done, I bent both of these into a candy cane shape. And then I glued 1 candy cane on top of the other one. And I also made a loop out of some red and white twine and glued it on the back, so it can hang later. The last thing I did was I glued on a gold bow and a bell, but you can decorate or color your candy cane ornament however you would like. And now for this next idea, I'll be making a present out of a canvas by placing a piece of ribbon on a small canvas, and then I flipped it over to glue the ends of the ribbon on the back of the canvas. Then I repeated the same steps, but I glued the ribbon in the opposite direction. Next, I cut off some berries and leaves off of a berry pick, and then I glued on a bow where the ribbon crosses, and glued the berries and the leaves underneath the bow. The last thing I did was that I made a loop out of some twine and glued it on the back to finish this easy ornament idea. Now for this third DIY, I drew and cut out 2 mitten shapes out of white felt, but you can use whatever color that you want. Next, I pinned and sewed the felt pieces together, but if you want, you can just glue them together, or you can use any stitch that you would like. And I only did a simple stitch around the edge of the mitten, and I also left the top open so I could place things inside of it. Once I was done sewing, I glued a piece of felt ribbon next to the top of the mitten, and then I glued on a bow with the ribbon, and I also glued a piece of twine in the shape of an arch on the inside of the mitten, so it can hang later. The last thing I did was that I glued berries inside of the mitten, and a red bell on the middle of the bow, but you can decorate your ornament however you would like, and I think it turned out looking really cute. For this fourth idea, I'll be making an angel. So I started by cutting out 2 squares that measure about 6 by 6 inches out of pink paper with snowflakes on it, but you can use any color of paper that you want. Next, I took one of the pieces of paper and folded it at about every half of an inch until I reached the end of the paper, and I also repeated this step for the other piece of paper. Once I was done, I folded a piece of twine in half, and then I twisted the folded part together so I could fit it through the hole of a bead. And then I made a knot on the folded side of the twine so the bead would stay on. Then I took one of the pieces of paper and folded it to the left and glued that side down. And then I repeated the same steps for the other piece of paper but folded it to the right. When I was done, I put glue where I wanted the middle of the angel to be, and placed the twine in the glue, and I made sure the bead was where I wanted the head to be, and then I glued the 2 pieces of paper together. The last thing I did was I drew 2 eyes on the bead with a paint marker, and glued on a gold bell underneath of the head to finish this angel ornament. And now for this next idea, I painted a wooden snowflake a light blue, but you can use any shape or color. Once it was dry, I put Mod Podge on the snowflake and sprinkled some glitter over it, and then I tapped the excess glitter off of it and waited for it to dry. Next, I tied a piece of twine through the hole of the ornament and glued a white bow on the ornament. Then to finish this snowflake ornament, I glued on 3 wood letter tiles on the ornament. And I glued on the word joy, but you can glue on any word that you would like. Now for this next idea, I'll be making a snowman, by starting with making a small spiral out of macrame cord, but you can use yarn if you want. And then I glued the spiral on a piece of cardstock paper with hot glue, and I continued to make the spiral until I liked the size for the body of a snowman. I also repeated the same steps for the head of the snowman, but I made it smaller than the body. Next, I cut the spirals out and glued them together to form a snowman. Then I started to decorate the snowman by gluing on a piece of ribbon for the scarf, and then I made a hat by gluing and wrapping a piece of felt around where I wanted it to be. Then I tied a bow out of a piece of twine around the hat and glued a gold bell on the middle of the bow. Now to finish this cute snowman ornament, I glued on 2 eyes and a carrot nose where I wanted the face to be, and then I made a loop out of a piece of twine and glued the knot inside of the hat. Now for these next 2 ideas, I took some Easter eggs and cut them in half. Next, I took the larger sides and ran a piece of ribbon through the holes so I could tie the ends of the ribbon on the inside, and pull the loop back out so it can hang, but if you can't do this, you can just glue the loop on. Then to finish this idea, I put Mod Podge on them and poured clear glitter on them to get these cute gumdrop ornaments. And another ornament I made out of these Easter eggs is lollipops, by taking the smaller sides of the Easter eggs and cutting a piece of fabric that would be big enough to cover it. Next, I wrapped a piece of fabric around it and bunched and glued the fabric together, and I also glued a lollipop stick in the fabric. Then I trimmed the fabric and tied a piece of ribbon into a bow around the fabric and the lollipop stick, but you can use whatever you would like. Now to finish this lollipop ornament, I made a loop out of twine and glued it on the back of the lollipop, and glued a bell on the middle of the bow, and I think this idea would look really cute with different colors or patterns of fabric. And now for this next idea, I'll be making another snowman, so I cut a piece of red felt that was big enough to make a hat around a foam ball, and then I folded the hat a little bit and glued it down. Next, I glued the hat on the foam ball and trimmed the fabric. Then I bunched up the fabric and glued it together, and I also tied a bow around it out of twine. Now to decorate it, I glued on eyes, a carrot nose, and 4 circles for the mouth out of felt. Then I glued a bell on the middle of the bow, and made a loop out of more twine, and glued it in the hat to finish this snowman ornament. Now for this last DIY, I drew and cut a tree out of cardboard. Next, I glued a loop out of yarn on the top of the tree, and then I glued the end of a piece of yarn on the tree, and started to wrap the yarn on the tree until I reached the bottom, and when I reached the bottom, I glued the end of the yarn down. Then I glued on some tiny pieces of yarn to cover the uncovered edges of the cardboard. And to finish this tree ornament, I glued on a wood star and some white beads, but you can decorate your tree however you would like. That's how you make all of these Christmas ornament ideas. In the comments down below, let me know which one is your favorite, and if you like this video, subscribe to see more DIYs. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!